Good morning, my super friends, and thank you for coming along to another live stream. I acknowledge the traditional owners of this land. I pay my respects to the elders past and present, and to Aboriginal elders and peoples from other communities who may be taking part in this live stream today. Now, before getting into the things that I actually want to talk about today, Peter, I'll get back to that comment. I don't know if you can tell much difference, but I'm using a different camera to what I've been using for quite a long time now. In the past, what I've been doing is using my Panasonic digital SLR sitting on a tripod up. Whoa, that hand looked huge. Sitting on a tripod up just above and behind my screen with HDMI capture, and I found that it was really annoying having to keep putting the camera there and taking it away while I'm working on videos because it's my only decent camera. So in order to have a camera that I can just put there and leave there, I got a Logitech Brio, which is one of those little supposedly 4K cameras. I'm not running it in 4K mode, but it means that I can have a camera that is sitting there permanently and I don't have to mess around with cables and that last minute thing where I'm about to start the live stream and I've totally forgotten to plug the camera in. It can stay there as long as the quality is okay. I think it looks alright. From what I can tell, just like on the preview video that I can see here. So, Peter said, for what it's worth, I think John should update his avatar. It's misleading to suggest we should expect hair. Yeah, I know, that's false advertising, isn't it? It's like a bait and switch thing. I don't know if it's a disappointment or a relief. So, Celtic Beast, I acknowledge that John will go off topic. Maybe. That never happens. What are you talking about? So far in the chat we've got Sion the Unexpected Maker, Austin is here, and Peter Lawler, of course, I just mentioned, Henrik, Fuddy, and Frederick. Johnny Begdal is here. Good midnight. Yes, I know, I start a bit too late for you, Ilix, and the Celtic Beast. So, about a month ago, Arturo had a thread on Twitter, and I think he might have even done it like on a Saturday. I can't remember what day it was. Anyway, it was just before I was going to do a live stream, and I thought it'd be really cool to go through this Twitter thread and look at some of the pictures that people have posted. And then for some reason I ended up chasing a squirrel. I don't remember what happened on that live stream, but I never got to it anyway. So I thought that we would do it today. And where are we? Okay, so what I did was, I'm probably not making any sense. I'm just blabbering. So I'll explain myself a little more. Okay, just to bring you up to speed. What Arturo posted was a request for people to put up pictures of their workbenches, electronics workbenches, workspaces, whatever. And in this context right now, obviously we're looking at electronics workbenches, but I just like to see where people work, or maybe work is the wrong word, because it's not, when you say the word work, what I conjure is sitting down at the grindstone and grinding through things that are a chore. But most of what I do, I actually love doing it, and I'm doing it because I'm really excited about it, and I want to build things and make things and design things and figure out how things work and learn new things. That's the best bit, is figuring out something new. So calling it a workbench is like, it's a workbench, but no, it's more like a play space or a fun space. And different things work for different people, and also people have different focuses. So, they're optimized for different things. Some people optimize for a lot of software development, like firmware development, and a little bit of hardware on the side because you need the platform to run your firmware on. Some people focus really on the electronics, and there are different facets of it. So, so workspaces can be very different. Anyway, it's not too late to get your picture on. So let me have a quick look at this. I'm going to post a couple of links in the video chat, and I'm going to be doing some screen sharing and show you what I'm looking at. So this, oh, and Austin's Creation said, congrats on the water cannon. Yeah, that's a squirrel I could chase. So that link that I just posted is to my tweet, which references Arturo's tweet, and I will also post the link to Arturo's tweet, and there it is. And Arturo said that I have to tell you to go and follow him on Twitter. So go and follow him on Twitter. And there are okay. So what I'm going to do is start by having a look through some of the pictures that are on Arturo's thread. If you would like to have your workbench shown on this, then go along to, well, I suppose either my thread or his, doesn't matter at this point, and reply with a picture of your workspace, or on Facebook as well. So I also did put this on Facebook, even though the original thread was on Twitter. And so let me see if I can, where is it? Can I share a Facebook thing? I think I can. Yes, okay, here is the direct link to the Facebook post on the same subject. So 3 different places where you can post photos, and I will try to show some. So let's get started. What am I doing? Desktop. Okay, desktop sharing. Here we go. So we have, let's maximize this screen. So this is from Arturo's original thread, and what you can see, he started off here with a picture of his own workbench, and you can see it's got a microphone on it which actually looks pretty much identical to the microscope, the body of the microscope that I've since put in storage because I've now switched over to a different type of microscope. But it's got a trinocular microscope there with a camera on it, pegboard on the back, and various things stacked on it. And you can see there is a hot air system over on the right with a soldering iron. It looks like a micro pencil sort of soldering iron. Cotton buds, and it looks like this little vial of stuff for cleaning up PCBs. And there are a couple of things here that interest me. One is right in the middle, and this is probably fairly small. Let's do some zoomification. Is it going to do it? No. That's interesting. So it just keeps resetting the image size even as I zoom the screen. Okay, oh well. So there is a thing down here, it looks like little drawers with vials that pull out. I'm not quite sure what that's about. And a PCB holder. Now, PCB holders, this is a subject, or a squirrel, that I would really like to chase. And one of the things I was thinking of doing today on the live stream is designing a PCB holder in Fusion 360. And I've had lots of thoughts about this, so we'll get back to it. Not this style of PCB holder. This style is nice as well. This is like 2 moving bars that clamp together. And so anyway, let's not chase that squirrel too much right now. There's a dispenser there as well. And you can see hand tools stuck into a little holder up there. So I'm probably not going to spend a huge amount of time looking at each picture. Like I just spent a fair bit of time looking at that one. Oh, and this is my reply. And you've seen it, you can probably see it in the background right now. So this is my workspace. So where I'm sitting right now is in that chair that you can see. This photo is a little old, things have changed a bit since then. But you can see the camera, this is the Panasonic camera sitting on the tripod just behind the monitor. And the microphone on the boom arm. which was very generously given to me by Grant. So thank you very much. I'm using that microphone right now. It's still there in that same position. He sent me this little shotgun microphone, and I made a boom arm and mounted it up over my monitor. So the idea is that it sticks down and it's pointing directly at my face, and it's as close as I can get it without being in the field of view of the camera. So the edge of the field of view of the camera is just there, and the microphone is just behind it. Hopefully things sound okay. So anyway, this is my workspace. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this one because you've already seen it and I've talked about it in the past, and I'll probably talk about it in the future. Let's see if we can just... oh, and also I should point out, nothing about any of this is workspace shaming. There are workspaces that are immaculately neat. There are some that are just piles of stuff. Everybody has their own way of working, and yeah, all workspaces are good workspaces. There are cool things to be found all over the place. Now this looks like a display. You know those classic things where you walk into a university engineering department, and I don't know why, but they always have glass display cases in the halls, usually with student projects or things that were done 15 or 20 years before, and they're all covered in dust. But you see all these really cool things that are on display. This this reminds me of a display where you're looking at all of the cool projects that have been done. Now check out these little modules. I don't know what the deal is with these, but those are cool. It looks like they screw into some kind of a chassis. I'd like to know more about that. So that's whose was that one? Oh, Glenn Aikens. Glenn doesn't... I think Glenn comes along to the live streams sometimes. Maybe, maybe not. But yeah, the stuff on this bench is really cool. I like these little modules. One thing that I've often thought would be really cool would be a module standard that is smaller than a 19-inch rack. You know, like a mini rack. Instead of being a 19-inch rack, and why not go metric as well? So instead of a 19-inch rack, go to the equivalent of like a 12-inch rack, or even smaller, like 8-inch rack. So, you know, 170, 200 millimeters wide, and then you could make little modules that that bolt into it. Excuse me. And Euro rack is really interesting as well. A few years ago, my friend Hugh put me onto Euro rack as a possible format, and I ended up buying some Euro rack hardware, so I've got some rack rails and things. And I've considered making home automation devices or modules that fit into a Euro rack, and that could be interesting to talk about as well, but let's not get into that right now. So there is some, yeah, there's some cool stuff in that picture. One thing that's interesting is the combination of test gear that's sitting up on the bench overhead and test gear that's sitting on the back of the bench. Now this is something that I've struggled with over the years with my own workbench, is where do you put the test gear? And for a long time I had things like my oscilloscope sitting directly on the bench, like at the back of the bench, and I found it was really annoying because you'd have to reach over or behind whatever it is you're working on, and often it was obscured if you had a bit of gear in front of it, or some circuit boards. And if you're trying to plug in test leads, the connection's usually at the bottom of the device, whatever, like your scope or whatever. So you've got to reach over and down and plug them in, and then the leads get in the way. So I've become a fan of putting test gear elevated just above the workbench. What I like to do is go one level up, and in fact, if you can probably see this, if I go back to, so this is the picture of mine, yeah, with that perspective it's a little bit hard to see, but the workbench is clear, and then there is a shelf. How high is this shelf? 170, oh, it's about 250 mils off the workbench. So you can see there's an oscilloscope there, there's a multimeter right in the middle, bench power supplies. It's obscured by leads hanging down, but you can see it all just there. there is this, over the other side of the monitor, there is this soldering station. And so what that does is it brings your test gear up to a point where it is slightly more at eye level and it's more directly accessible when you've got a project sitting on the bench in front of it. And it means that you can use more of the bench space because you don't have your bench taken up by the test gear. So yeah, I've gone around and around on different arrangements for that. And so yeah, with Glenn's bench here, we've got some test gear mounted up high, which is nice. It takes it up out of the way, and what you can do, as you can see in the picture there, is just put the leads over, and then your bench area is clear. Makes it a bit easier to get at things. And Tabletronics. Tabletronics you should definitely follow if you want to see cool projects. So this is like a glamour shot taken with the lights off and backlighting on the bench, and you can see a big curved monitor there with the laptop. And this arrangement is actually very similar to mine, with the computer and the workbench right next to each other, so that you've got yeah, I find this really useful because when you're working on firmware or hardware, you're often having to access your computer at the same time as working on the bench, and having them in separate locations means you're constantly doing things like taking a board, taking it over to the electronics bench, doing some soldering, taking some measurements or whatever, bringing it back to your computer, plugging it in, doing firmware changes. It's really painful. So having the software and hardware sections integrated like this is really useful. You can have a board that you're working on sitting on your electronics bench within, arm's reach. Just turn around a bit and it's right there. Have all your test gear plugged into it, but also have your computer right here so you can be working on code and doing updates on it. Yeah, this is ideal. I really like this sort of arrangement. And this is the version with the lights on, so you can actually see what's going on. Oh look, there's a bender. What are they? Is that a like a conference badge SEO? I don't know. There's looks like it might be a conference badge thing. Okay, so another thing is the way people organize their little hand tools. This is really interesting too. So you can see that in this case there is a bar across the front, and then hand tools are hooked over it. I have not done I haven't done that particular thing, and so what I do is use well, they're kind of like takeaway containers, but they're not. I actually bought them, so they're not that flimsy, made as cheaply as possible takeaway container. They're proper storage containers, really strong, with removable lids, but they're about the dimensions of a takeaway container, but not as deep, like a shallow takeaway container. You can think of them as like little plastic trays. In fact, I wonder if I might show a photo sometime. And I've got a row of those along the back of my workbench pushed against the wall, and they've got different purposes. So it's one for cutting, one for screwdrivers, one for tweezers, one for hex heads, and it just keeps everything organized. So I put my hand tools down in those little plastic trays instead of hooking them onto something. So they end up in a bit of a jumble, like in each tray, but they're grouped. So in the cutting tray, there are things like scalpels, knives, razor saw, clippers, that sort of thing. But yeah, I'm interested to try this sort of approach as well. And Jay Carlson. So look at Jay's setup. This is like an art gallery crossed with an electronics lab. So 2 workspaces there, and you can look at this lighting too. This is really cool. So lighting there for doing videos or live streams, and you can see there's a camera pointing over the monitor. And so one computer there, one over here, and a whole wall full of little parts drawers. But you can also see this trolley off on the side. Now this is another really cool idea. So this sort of thing you see a lot in mechanical workshops. There will be a tray with tools on it, and you roll the whole trolley over to where you're working. Like if you're working on a car, then you roll the trolley over, and then you've got access to all your spanners and whatever you need. And this is interesting for electronics as well. So I kind of like the idea of having a trolley with removable trays, and I've seen people do this with catering carts. So in commercial kitchens, there will often be a cart that's got a whole lot of trays in it that slide in, because what you can do is put meals or whatever on the different trays, and then you can wheel the whole cart around, so you can move a whole lot of stuff and you can do it safely. It's not like carrying a tray with plates on it or carrying separate plates. You can wheel the cart and you could take a whole lot of stuff and move it from place to place. So a bit of a portable resource there, which is really cool. Now, in Jay's setup, you can see this is, Jay said upstairs electronics and downstairs mechanical. He also says overrated are bench meters, signal generators, and microscopes. Underrated, JBC soldering stations, plastic tubs from Target, and large 4K monitors. Yeah, I kind of disagree that microscopes are overrated. I love microscopes. It's one of the best. If I had to give up any tool, I think that would be the last one I would want to give up. And you can see some nice storage here too. All these real dispensers, surface mount dispensers, lots of plastic storage tubs. And this is the mechanical room with a funky looking robot arm in it. Which reminds me, I haven't said anything about this yet because I try not to say things about things until they're real, because I have such a bad history of saying things and then they don't come about. But something really exciting is that Naomi Wu has organized she's shipped me a robot arm, which is a really, really nice one. It's like a harmonic drive sort of arm, and it is currently, I've been watching the tracking, it's on its way from Shenzhen to Melbourne at the moment, and it's probably halfway here. No, actually, I think it got as far as New South Wales. Last time it was scanned in New South Wales. So something that Chris and I have been wanting to do for a very long time is attach a robot arm to his wheelchair and link it into his chair controls so that he can move his wheelchair around and then use the arm to do things like we're going to fit an actuator to it or whatever, and that way he can do things like move things by reaching out with the robot arm and picking them up, and those sorts of things are very expensive, so outside our budget. And Naomi was very generous in in offering to help out. So she has sent a really nice looking robot arm that we're going to try connecting to his wheelchair. Anyway, there'll be more about that in the future. So, getting back to Jay's workspace. Yeah, you can see, this is what I was talking about. Down in the back right corner, this is a classic mechanics rolling toolbox. Drawers with all sorts of stuff in it, whatever you want, probably sockets and spanners and different bits and pieces. And on the right you can see a little CNC machine, and there's a clamp on it. On the left, a 3D printer, and you can see there's another robot arm just over there. It's a little bit hard to tell because of the depth of this photo, and this is looking from behind another workbench. So yeah, lots of fun mechanical stuff in there. That looks really cool and remarkably neat. How is it so neat? Now I'll bring this one up. So John Raymond, John's often on this live stream as well. Don't know if John's here today. So this is inspired by Sion, the Unexpected Maker's little SMD assembly turntable. This is a spice rack, I think. So John went out and found a spice rack that was a similar concept. Now with this one, the whole table rotates. The idea with Sion's is that the center of the thing, there are 2 points of rotation. So the board goes in the center, and you can rotate that, and then the outer ring rotates independently. So what you can do is rotate the central PCB to the correct orientation, and then you rotate the outer ring to select the part you want, and you can easily put it on, which is better than having the two fixed together like this. But it looks like John has found a clever reuse for an existing splice rack there. So I might be wrong. It could be that the center of this rotates independently, but I don't think so. I think it's all, I don't know, maybe it is. Maybe the center is just fixed. John, if you're here, please clarify. So, yes, that's really cool. I've got, if I, just up here, I've got a, these are the 3D printed parts for Sion's version of the tray, and it's got one of the bearings in it at the moment, so this center part spins, but I don't have the big bearing for the outer part yet. I ordered those, but I'm still waiting for them to arrive. And I'm going to send one down to John Spencer as well, because I think he's already printed the parts ready to be assembled. Now, oh, and a reflow oven. So toaster oven modified with a controller. Now, I need to get going on moving through these more quickly. Alright, so, this is Tisham's workspace. So Tish was he was a guest on the live stream a little while ago, so he does energy monitoring sort of stuff. And I can see, I know this is a recent image because look what is right here in the middle is his LCA conference badge. Just like, don't know if I can drag it across far enough, just like this one. So there's my LCA 2021 conference badge, which has already been shown on the live stream a number of times, and I think Tish spoke at LCA this year. I can't remember. And yeah, so that's his conference badge sitting there. And off on the left, look, you can see the Open Hardware MiniConf project from the previous year. This is the self-driving car. So it's an RC car with the perception module sitting on top of it. The perception module combines a Raspberry Pi with an add-on board that was designed by John Spencer and Bob Powers, and it's got a camera on it, so it does machine learning. And Andy, who's probably here in the chat, did the setup of all of the software on that, so it's able to drive itself around a track using machine learning, working off the camera feed and controlling the chassis, like the throttle on the steering. So yeah, Tish came along to previous thing. Okay, so up in the top right corner, there's a solder fume, well, they're often called fume extractors, but this particular type, I think, is just the one that's got something like a filter inside it. So it sucks the air away from you and filters the air, but it blows the air straight out the back. So it doesn't take the air out of the room, it just cleans it and removes as much as possible of the bad stuff that you would be breathing in otherwise. So that's a really good idea. If you spend much time doing soldering, definitely put some careful thought into getting those fumes away from your face. Because I think a lot of the danger with soldering, like people are often concerned about lead-based solder and handling lead-based solder. I think there is less danger in the lead, particularly if you just wash your hands after you've done soldering, and you don't hold the solder in your mouth like I used to when I was a kid. There's probably less danger in the lead than there is in the fumes and the flux and all of that sort of thing. So if you can, don't sit there with your face right over your project as you're soldering, breathing in all the fumes. Grab something like a solder fume extractor. Ooh, this looks colourful and nice. So, not sure how to pronounce that. Grajon T is this user. Looks like, John Thurmond. There's a name tag right there. Now this is a colourful and neat and well organised looking bench. You can see there's one of those silicon rubber disassembly tray things there in the middle. It's got spots for you to put parts and keep them all separated. Looks like an ESD. Oh, it is. You can see just in the right corner there is a little stud. That's where you clip on an anti-static wrist strap, like this sort of thing. So I've got this one which is plugged into a point on my workbench so I can put the wrist strap on, and it's got a, I think it's like a 1 mega ohm resistor in series with it, so it dissipates any static charge. I've got mine connected to a big stake that goes into the ground just outside the wall, and I've got the static dissipative mat on my workbench also connected to that same point. Now you can see here there is the little, it's like a press stud sort of thing where a wrist strap can be plugged in. What else can we see? Oh look, there's an old style oscilloscope. Down on the bottom right corner there is it looks like an actual cathode ray tube type scope, so it's a crow. This looks a lot like a university lab or a school lab. I wonder if John is a teacher. Lots of tape up there, very handy. Little parts in drawers. Oh, looks like there is some kind of a fume extraction system. See up in the right here, that black thing on the wall, that is an exhaust fan, like an inline exhaust fan. And then we've got this white duct that comes down behind it. So I don't know where that goes. I can't see it. It goes behind all of these little things here, but presumably it's taking bad fumes from somewhere and getting them out of the place. Now there's an interesting project here. This kind of reinforces that I think this might be something like a school or university lab, because it's got this thing which looks like a bit of PVC tube with all the wire wrapped around it, and you can just see something protruding out of it. That looks awfully like a school science project. At some point I should probably take a look at the chat. I've been ignoring it. Oh, Luke, my old friend Luke. So Luke said, no esteemed deeds are commemorated here. Luke does really amazing work. Oh, you can see some Kim wipes there. So Luke is a physicist, and he used to do a bit of electronics contracting. I'm not sure if he still does. I think he does that just as like maybe a personal interest thing or as a sideline to his job. But you can see something really interesting here. You see this very fancy bit of pipe work. That is not something that your typical plumber would come across. That's that'll be something to do with his work, his physics related work. He's often posting pictures of crazy pipe work and doing things like drawing down extremely, which way do you put it, drawing vacuum down to a very low level, very few particles still existing inside that space. This looks like the sort of thing where it'll be part of a vacuum chamber setup, and he's often working with exotic chemicals and doing things like doing deposition onto the surface of wafers, like what PCBs are made out of, not PCBs, what ICs are made out of. So Luke is a super brainiac guy, but the work he does is not, it's not generally in the area of, I've got a board and I need to solder some parts onto it. It's more like, really extreme chemistry and physics. So, when he says no esteemed deeds are commemorated here, I suspect he's lying. Oh, Colin! Colin Hickey posted a picture of his workspace. This looks cool. There's a stack of computers up on the right, a couple of 3D printers. Well, a couple. There are 4 that I can see there immediately, and there are probably more hiding. Workbench off on the left, wood floor, and some parts drawers over here. So that's a pretty nice looking space, Colin. Oh, yeah, a couple of printers down here. Looks like there's a laser printer and an inkjet printer, perhaps. So what have we got? That is a Prusa. That looks like a Prusa Mark III, or possibly an earlier one. No, it looks like a Mark III's. And down below it, there is another Prusa, and it's got the control raised up, mounted on the top, which is interesting. And to the right of that, there is another thing that looks like a Prusa, but I think the frame has been replaced. That's all done with extrusion. That's like 2040 extrusion. The control on the front, I think, actually even says Prusa from what I can read on this photo. But maybe, yeah, maybe it's a Prusa that's been retrofitted with a different chassis. And then there's another printer up here. I can't identify that one. Maybe a, yeah, I don't know. I would just totally be guessing. I'm not quite sure what that is. So, oh look, over here on the left, you can see there is like a ring light on a stand, and I think that might be associated with a microscope sort of setup. Maybe there's a lens in the middle of it for it getting in and getting some good visibility. So, I'm just going to take a look at 2 more here, and then I'm going to try jumping over to another thread because there might be some replies to that other thread that I posted. Now this is interesting. A couple of things are interesting about it. Oh look, the microscope once again, fume extraction, test gear on the shelf over the bench. This is cool. But what I noticed was down here there is this. Is this like a modular power supply or something? So it looks like this is a mobile rack. It's a 19-inch rack on wheels with some shelves in it. So it's being used partly for storage and partly for gear. And yeah, that looks like modules inside a 19-inch rack. Like a rack chassis with sub-modules within it, which I think is a good solution. So when I was talking earlier about Euro rack, doing something like this as a compromise, I think, is really worth investigating. What I was thinking of doing was, because often in like high-end automation systems, 19-inch racks are kind of assumed. So having a 19-inch rack is a good thing. Things like Ethernet switches, you know, they're all designed to fit into that. But often you want to make devices that are smaller than a single 1U rack. And it's wasteful to have an entire rack unit. And also the format may not work. Maybe you want something that's more of a square or a rectangular control panel. So but you don't want to waste 3 rack units of height just for a single simple thing. So having some kind of a chassis that goes into a 19-inch rack and then have modules that go into that would be worth investigating. And Euro rack, I think, is possibly a good candidate. You could take a Euro rack chassis, mount it inside a 19-inch rack, and then put modules in it. And then you got power and all of those things available. Oh look, there's a Unify access point there, stuck up on the side, and another Prusa 3D printer. Looks like 2 workspaces. We've got one workspace here with the monitor facing it, and then another workspace over there. Yeah, a Gigatron. Ooh. So in the comments, Hans said, what's up behind the PDP-8? So there's a PDP-8 here, and then up here is a Gigatron. So there are a couple of classic retro computer things there. Luke Gorry posted this. Oh yeah, this is another good example of having the electronics and the software part of things, like the computer right there at the electronics bench. I think this is the way to go. And there's a big gap here though. So this brings all of the test gear up very high. Yeah, I found that for me personally, the optimal way to do it is to have a shelf that is above the workbench, but not a long way above the workbench, like 250 mils. Enough that you can get things under it, but you don't need a huge amount of space. But yeah, this looks pretty cool. Oh, and down here, this is getting back to the subject that I was talking about before with PCB holders. So you can see that there is this orange board right in the middle, and if I reach up here and try not to knock too much stuff off, I suspect it's one of these. Probably from the, yeah, it's probably like a Koto magnetic base, and it looks like it's got these same snap-on helping hands sort of things. But there is also a PCB holder there, and that is the squirrel that I was thinking of chasing. He's designing a PCB holder, but let's put that aside. Alright, so I'm going to jump over to Facebook for a second, and ooh, Tridge. So Tridge, if you don't know who Tridge is, you really should. So Andrew Tridgell is a legend certainly in the Australian open source space and in the tech industry. Sorry, I should say Dr. Andrew Tridgell, probably the only person I've ever met who has invented a new algorithm. There's so much to mention, but the obvious highlights are the original developer of Samba, like the SMB message. Was it SMB? What does SMB stand for? Something message block. I can't remember. And the file sharing protocol implementation, the open source version of it. He did all of that as a like a black box re-implementation of the protocol by observing it on the wire, and he's done some amazing conference talks about his work reverse engineering that protocol, and so many other things like rsync. If you've used rsync to take a file and synchronize it with a remote copy of the file so that you've got it up to date without moving the entire file, he invented that. In fact, I think rsync, if I remember the story correctly, Tridge invented rsync in order to be able to more efficiently back up his wife's computer over the network. So that's the kind of guy he is. Sees a little problem. I need to back up this computer. Okay, let's invent an entirely new algorithm and software package that ends up being ubiquitous, used around the world by hundreds of millions of people, and built into the way the internet works. Yes. Oh, and also ArduPilot. If you're into drones and you use ArduPilot, then you have Tridge to thank for a whole lot of the things that you use. Anyway, what am I talking about? So this was the thread that I posted on Facebook, and Tridge replied to it with this. Let's see. UAV obsession. Ooh. Yeah, that's right. So I was talking about ArduPilot. Check out this aeroplane. Now, at first glance, if you look at that picture, you think, okay, it's a big RC-powered plane. But there are some very interesting things about it, which are not immediately obvious just because of all of the visual stuff in here. Firstly, you can see that it's got this prop on the front, and I think that, is that I think that's like a spirit-driven motor, like a, what do they run on? I can't remember. Anyway, it's an internal combustion engine, I think. But look on the side here. You see that? That is a vertically mounted prop. Well, the motor is vertical axis, the prop is horizontal, and there is another one below it. So that is a pair of props pointing straight up and down. So in like a push-pull configuration. And there is one on that side of the aircraft, and over here there is another one. And if you look towards the back, you'll see that there is another one there, and oh yeah, there you can see, just over there, that is the other one. So this is like, and if you took a quadcopter and an aircraft and smashed them together, this is what you get. It's an aircraft that can take off vertically as a quadcopter, although technically an octocopter, I think, because it's got 2 motors and 2 propellers on each of the corners. But it can also fly like an aeroplane. So you could, I assume that you could just take this off normally from a runway, and then you could bring it to a dead stop in the air and then just land it vertically, or vice versa. So that is the sort of crazy stuff that Tridge does. If you're into UAVs or drones or anything like that, then you really should check out his work and ArduPilot. It's amazing. So what else do we have in this workspace? Oh, up in the top right there, look, that camera looks like one of those little remote control cameras, or one that does automatic tracking. Lots and lots of big plastic storage here for large parts. Because of the kind of stuff that Tridge builds, I suspect that he has quite a storage issue. It's not a matter of storing so many tiny electronic components, it's storing plane parts like propellers and motors and lots of other big things. Now what was that other photo? Now, what this reminds me is Workbench. Whose Workbench was it? I can't remember. There is a very famous Workbench that was that was, I think, about 300 mil deep in electronic components, and it was just built up over years, and I can't remember the name of the engineer who did it. It's gone out of my mind. Someone is shouting it right now. So there is a famous engineer whose Workbench was just electronic components piled up, and when he wanted a part, it's like having a big pile of Lego. He would literally just, grab handfuls, shove the parts aside and sift through and try to find what he was wanting. This bench reminds me of that a little bit. So there is, it's one of those things where you could spend hours just looking through this, trying to find all the cool things. I can see, how many flight controllers can I see? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it starts to get out of focus. Many interesting things in there. Well, it's obvious there are drone bits and things everywhere. So many drones just in that picture. So, but Tridge says, I like to think my code is tidier than my bench. Yeah, Tridge is a coding genius. Oh, this is nice. Look at this. So this is Michael Bagucci. Yeah, Bagucci. Is it Bagucci? Bagucci. Michael's Workbench. Made the entire Workbench. A bit obsessed with organizing my parts. This looks so good. The only thing that would annoy me about this is, where do your knees go? But look at the curve on the on these drawers here. So he's got magnification, which is high mounted. Now this setup is actually very similar to mine, but it just looks far nicer. So he's got the Workbench that goes back to the wall with small tools pushed to the back. Oops, I didn't mean to get out of that picture. I just want to enjoy this picture a little bit more. So you can see there's an overhead camera just there. There's something sticking down from an upper shelf, or maybe the ceiling. Looks like it's got a camera attached to it. And there is test gear around the first level of the shelf, like first level shelf. Soldering gear here. That's a really nice little solder stand. A couple of soldering irons there. It looks like a hot air and a maybe a Weller soldering iron. It looks like a Weller style iron with drawers under it, maybe for storing the solder and spare soldering iron bits and things. It looks, is that power? I can't quite tell. Looks like there might be power sockets or something along that shelf. And magnification here, so a magnifier with a light that is mounted on an arm attached to the shelf, so it's totally out of the way, but you can pull it down when you want it. And over here it looks like, I can't quite tell what that is, but that looks to me like maybe Dremel bits. No, it doesn't really look like Dremel bits, not sure. Microscope on an arm as well, so you can push it back out of the way. Fume extraction. And the curve on this is so cool. It's it's like one of those mega curved monitors, you know, like a 49-inch monitor where it wraps around you, and he's got all of the shelves wrapping around as well. It also reminds me of a jeweler's workbench. If you haven't seen those before, it's worth looking up. In fact, let's see if we can. Jeweler's bench. I think they're often semicircular, or at least they've got an indentation. Okay, yeah, here's a good example. I really like this sort of thing. So it's a bench with a rounded shelf. So there's a flat workspace on the bottom. Oh, you can't see it because my face is over the top. That's silly. All right, I'm going to. This is a squirrel that I could chase, but let's not chase it right now. Let's. I'm just going to open only briefly. All right, so this is what I mean about a jeweler's bench. So it's got the workbench area, and then there is a shelf above it that is typically curved. And this seems to be quite common. So what you can do is put all of your tools and other bits and pieces around on the curved upper bench. And you can see here there is a flame because there's a gas burner just there for soldering or whatever else it is that they need to do as part of their work making jewellery. Well, look at the old phone. That's like the ones we used to have in Australia. I wonder if this is an Australian bench. So, and then other little hand tools and things in shelves. So that sort of curved thing is the classic jeweler's workbench. And here's another one. If you just search for jeweler's workbench, you will see so many of these. They all have this, where did it go? I clicked through to it and I got something totally different. So yeah, they all have this sort of design where it's curved around you. So you're working with this closed space that's right up close to you. And yeah, build your own jeweler's bench. So here's an article about that. Maybe, if it'll load, building a jeweler's bench. Yeah, so there's a design for the bench with the curved worktop. And back, come on. Yeah, it looked like there was a photo. Yeah, the jeweler's, let's have a look at this. The jeweler's bench on Amazon. So this is looks like a book. But yeah, this gives you a good idea as well. In fact, this one's got a pull-out drawer underneath which fits around the curve and the work area. There's a little work holder here, and then tools go into this. So yeah, it's, I don't know why in particular, but jewelers seem to have this style of workbench, which I haven't really seen other places. People that do like model building, what is this? This photo looks crazy. Come on, let's have a look at this. This looks kind of steampunk. Ah, wow. I'll bring it across there a little bit. So it's got all these sliding drawers, but they've all got a curved front on them. I don't know if this is practical or if it's just something that's designed to look really cool. Yeah, so I haven't really seen it in other places other than people who build models, like people that are into model trains and that sort of thing. I've seen a couple of workbenches that are very similar to jeweler's benches, where they have, and when you're working on something like building historical dioramas or model trains, or building building models of things, a lot of the tools are the same as you would use as a jeweler. You're doing small drilling and cutting and all those same files and things, making little shapes, doing very small scale fabrication. So I've seen a few people with workbenches with that sort of style. I have no idea what is going on in this picture. That looks crazy. Okay, let's get off the jeweler's bench. You get what I mean. So now we're back looking at this picture of Michael's workbench. You can see why this picture made me think of a jeweler's workbench. It's got this curved front to it. Even though the workbench area doesn't have the curved inset like a jeweler's bench, it's still got that concept of you being at the center of everything, and it's all curved around you, so it's all in reach. You just reach in different directions to get to the things that you want. That is really nice. I like that. So I'm going to click like on that one. Now, what have we got on Twitter? Let's see if people have been replying. I don't know if Twitter updates unless I reload the page. No, it didn't. Oh, we've got some replies here. Cool. So, what do we have? Oh, Austin. So, Austin posted this earlier in the Discord as well, because just before the live stream, I said I was going to do this, and Austin posted in Discord that he was working on a design for his workbench, but hasn't actually built it yet. So, space for 3D printing, queen loft bed, storage, electronics workbench, and large computer monitors. Ah, I see. So that's what this space is back here. This is where the bed goes. So that's a... maybe? Am I interpreting this correctly? That's what it looks like to me. I think this is like a... well, when I first glanced at that, I thought, that's steps. So maybe you climb up there into this area. So... 3D printing, maybe in this area. Electronics workbench, large computer monitors, yep. And storage shelves over here. So there's a little enclosed space here, which is where the workbench is, and then storage goes underneath the loft bed. Oh, Austin just said, yes, that's right. Cool. Okay. Yeah, that's a really clever use of space. Sometime I should post a photo of what we did with my son's bed, and we had a cabinet maker build a custom bed for him, which is like a bunk bed, except that there's no bottom bunk. The whole bottom part of it is just storage. It's drawers and cupboards and things. So it's like he's on the top of a bunk, but with all storage underneath him, and the top is all enclosed as well. It was custom designed to fit the space, and the top part of it goes all the way to the ceiling and joins the ceiling. So it's like the whole bed is built in as part of the room. It looks really cool. And then up there he's got a monitor mounted up in it, and there's LED lighting around it and things. It's a pretty awesome setup. So yeah, this sort of thing where you use the space under the bed for storage and elevate the bed, that's really clever. But Austin, one thing that worries me is the practicality of how you're going to do things like how do you change your sheets and things on the bed. It's awkward to get up there and do things on it. So if you need to like take the mattress out to put a fitted sheet on it, that would be really awkward when it's up in that area. But I really like the I like the way you're conceptualizing this and making everything fit together. That's really cool. Looks like maybe a computer down under the bench here. And oh, okay. So Austin said, full explanation of everything on Discord of parts and items, 2 little characters on Twitter, and in this setup I'm limited with, well, it says 88-foot ceilings. Does that mean 8 foot 8 inches? because I don't think 88-foot ceilings would be a limitation. So okay. So Old Hack said, where is it? Ooh, I see an interesting portable oscilloscope there. That's some of it. It goes around in an L shape, cupboards top and bottom. Oh, yeah, I like the monitor up on this arm here. It gets it up out of the way, but it keeps it right there where you need it. And it looks like it's running like some signal analysis software. What is that? Is that SIGROC or something? Don't know. It looks like a logic analyzer type thing, but there's an analog signal at the top there. So there is a camera-based microscope, and oh look, there you can see there's a logic analyzer signal on this other screen. So there's a Novo screen up behind here, and and the high bench for things like power supplies and things to get them up out of the way. So yeah, this is a pretty cool setup. I can't scroll down, but you can see that it looks like there is cable storage under the edge of the bench. And cable storage is something that always drives me nuts, like trying to figure out a reasonable way to do it. So it looks like there is something hooked under there, and I think there is another photo in a follow-up. So we might get a better idea of the space in the follow-up. Opposite electronics bench. Okay, so there's another workspace here, and the first thing I looked at was that cassette tape, and the label on the cassette tape says Z80 disassembler. And if I'm reading this correctly, it says quality software. Now, I wonder if we can zoom in. Oh, we can on this. It's not going to resize. So look, Z80 disassembler quality software, QS. That's fantastic. So a couple of so we've got an iMac there. Is that second monitor attached to the iMac? It might be. Can't tell if that's running Windows or Mac OS. Oh, it looks like it's running Windows, so it looks like a separate computer, maybe like a NUC or something down behind it. And oh, this is a good idea too. The USB hub stuck on the front of the computer, because iMacs only have USB ports on the back, which is really annoying. And there's a bit of ham radio gear over here, and a little robot arm over in the corner. Cool. There's a lot going on in this space. Oh, and what is that keyboard doing? Is that... It's got the little nib, like this is a keyboard that's been pulled out of a laptop, but I don't know if that's the keyboard for the computer, or is it a keyboard that's been pulled out of a laptop and it's just sitting there. Oh, down here. Are these what I think they are? I'm not sure. See this tape? This area here. That is tape that goes through a pick and place machine. And I think these might be the new Raspberry Pi boards on there. Yeah, cool. Oh, okay. This is interesting too. See the little drawers on the right? There are labels on here. It says PCB transparency, stencils, etc. Notebooks, post-it stationery, batteries. So drawers for organizing things to get them out of the way. That's something that I don't have much room for here, unfortunately. I think drawers are a really good way of organizing things. I've got some drawers mounted. Can you see me? Kind of. The little view. So all of the workbenches I've got here, I just made myself. I just bolted some pine to the wall, and this is actually floor sheeting. So it's yellow tongue floor sheeting that I cut, and I put legs on it. But then I went down to Bunnings, like the local hardware store, and I bought some, or did I? I can't remember. I might have got these from an office supply place. Anyway, what I'm getting at is typical office desks will have the desk, and then under one side they will have a little set of drawers that is either on wheels sitting on the floor, or it's attached to the frame of the desk. So what I did was bought a couple of those drawer assemblies and I've screwed them under the desk. So I do have drawers here for office type stuff like pens, and all of those things are in drawers under my workbench. But I could do with a few more drawers because that's a good way of organizing things. So, aha, Chris. So Christopher Biggs posted. Chris has a really interesting workspace, and so Christopher is in Brisbane, I believe. I think he's in Brisbane, and he runs a consulting business there where he builds things for people, basically. So he does all sorts of different projects, and his business is kind of what I aspire mine to be, a combination of mechanical and electronics and firmware and all sorts of things. But this workspace is amazing. Basically, he's got the equivalent of a really nice hackerspace as his workshop. So it's got this big open area and rolling benches in the middle, so you can move the benches around, reconfigure it depending on what you're working on. But this is a really nice setup. So there's a long, it looks like that bench is steel. It's a steel topped bench, which obviously you've got to be careful of if you're working with electronics, but it makes a really good work surface for mechanical work, and if you put something like a static dissipative mat on it, it's fantastic. So you've got the strength of the steel bench, and then he's got some plate up on the back with stuff mounted on it like monitors, a whiteboard, test gear down towards the other end, these big storage drawers underneath, overhead storage, and lots of 3D printer filament. That's a nice setup. So over on the right you can see there's a 3D printer, well, two 3D printers I can see there, and just to the right of that you can see the edge of a box. And so I remember seeing this, I think it might have been on Twitter or Facebook, I can't remember where. Christopher posted a while ago that he had designed an enclosure for was it a CNC machine? I can't remember. So it's either a CNC machine or a 3D printer that's inside that enclosure. So over here we've got a drill press and more mechanical stuff, and you can see a big access door here. So this is proper factory space. This is not just, you know, a little home workshop. This is the sort of thing that yeah, you dream of having. And then a closer view of the electronics area, and you can see there is some black mat on the top surface there. So there isn't a short circuiting problem, with some test gear up over it. Oh look, you can see a reflow oven, and what is that down there? Is that an ultrasonic cleaner? Looks like an ultrasonic system. Microscope there, big TV, lots of storage. Yeah, there's a little board holder up here with some helping hands things on it. What sort of stuff do we have down in here? Chris is often on, I think Chris comes along to the live stream sometimes. He might even be here. So what have we got? Oh, cable glands. That one's got a large label on it so I can read it. Looks like, don't know what's in them, but lots of sort of semi-mechanical stuff. This is not really small electronic part storage. This is more the large things that you would use. Pencils, markers, biros, and there are some lots of labels. I like that. Labels on all the boxes. Christopher, this is a really nice setup. It's yes. What else do we have here? Oh, Stephen the robot. So I think Stephen just moved. Is that right? Oh, James O'Gorman said, envious if he's got it all to himself. I think he has other people working in there as well. So when you look at a workspace like I just showed you, which is Christopher's, it's a little bit misleading because you would look at that and think, what? That's mind-blowing. That's someone's workspace, but he actually has a successful engineering business with multiple people there. So it's my phone just lit up with a DHL delivery notification saying that I have a package arriving today. So, ooh, I have some stuff coming from JLC PCB. I'll try not to get excited about that. I won't chase that squirrel right now. But if I keep an eye on my monitors, I might see a JLC PCB package arrive on my doorstep. All right, so back to Stephen the robot. So Stephen Hawes, you may have come across from, well, he's done many projects, but the high-profile project most recently that everybody has been paying attention to is Index, which is his pick-and-place machine project. So that's definitely worth checking out. Yeah, so nice workbench arrangement here. We've got an area that's clear. So I don't mean it doesn't have stuff on it, but I mean it's clear, usable space, and then other things elevated on a bench just above it, and some parts going in there. So we've got the classic Rigol oscilloscope. Is that a DS? What is it? A 1054? Yep, 1054Z, I think. The classic 4-channel Rigol scope. Those things are so popular. And hot air. Oh, we've got little. Look at that. We've got component things there. So, in fact, in much the same way, if I reach up, I can pull up this. That looks a little bit like the thing on the screen. And if I reach over here, I can grab this, and that also looks a little bit like the thing on the screen. So, Stephen, I think we have pretty much the same supplies sitting on shelves in arm's reach. So we've got a lab power supply. Oops, I didn't mean to get out of that. I just meant to zoom out. And the computer on the side. And yes, again, this is, well, a couple of things about this. One is Stephen is setting this up so that he can film, because Stephen's a YouTuber. Go and subscribe to Stephen. And so you can tell he's got this really nice Canon camera here with a Rode microphone on it. Not the sort of thing you typically see sitting on a workbench. But you can see up the top here he's got this, this reflector so that he can have soft light coming in from behind the monitor. So if he's sitting at the computer, he'll be able to film. It looks like there's a webcam just there. So he'll be able to film while sitting at the computer and have nice lighting. Unlike me, I've just got these harsh overhead LED things, and the only lighting I've got coming towards me is my monitors. So I look bad on camera. That's not the lighting though. That's I just look bad on camera. So Stephen's gone to some trouble here to set this up, and you can see that he's got these 3 lights that on little booms, so you can angle them around and bounce light off walls and get everything looking good, because Stephen does cool videos. Oh, and there are some dispensers down here. Oh look, there's another one of the little Panavice helping hands things. What's the time now? 11:14. No, I'm probably not going to get to doing that live on the live stream today. Other things. Little lights on arms. So there's a camera-based microscope here. And there are lights on these goosenecks so that they can be angled around and pointed into the right place. Very handy. So yeah, I think I started saying earlier, I think Stephen has just moved. And so this is part of setting up his new work location. So I'm sure there will be a lot more to come. Oh, cool. Johnny just posted a link to Stephen's channel. Now what I should do is, right, so I've got to the end of that particular thread. I'm just going to reload in case there are any more pictures in this thread that I should comment on before I go And here it is. See, Arturo said, make sure to tell everyone to follow me. So go and follow Arturo. He said you should. What else? Do we have anything else on this one? And then I'm going to try to catch up on some messages. What have we got? Yeah. Oh, Michael's bench. I'm going to bring this picture up again just because that is cool. I don't know why, but the curved shelves above that appeal to me. Yeah, that's really cool. All right, so I might get back to Arturo's thread because I was showing you pictures of workbenches in Arturo's thread earlier, and I jumped over to the other thread, but I hadn't got anywhere near the end of Arturo's. There are many, many more to look at. But, so earlier I couldn't remember what SMB stood for. So KHM said server message block. Yes. All right. Okay. What have I been missing in the chat? So, Aaron Knox said, never heard of Eurorack before, but realized it's a standard used in audio. Yeah, so people use it for building synths. And MIDI kit like Moog modules for there seems to be loads of 1U 4-bay trays and slots. Seems like an interesting concept. Yeah. Andrew Gordon said, looked it up, it's a 10-inch cabinet and patch panel, can also get shelves and stuff. So, yeah, I think Eurorack is interesting. It's kind of crude in some ways, but that crudeness also means that there's not such a barrier to building your own stuff. You could be really dodgy about it if you wanted to. Like you could build, the way it works is there are metal rails. I mean, I'm waving my hands around here to show you, but I actually have the real stuff. I've got Eurorack hardware here, but I won't go and grab it right now. What you can do is you buy the aluminium extrusions, which are what you screw into, but you can just make your own wooden enclosure and use like wood screws into a wood frame. That's perfectly legitimate, and you don't have to be super accurate with it. You can make little Eurorack modules, basically faceplates made to the correct dimensions with screw holes in them, and screw it into some kind of a wooden frame. It's the sort of thing that is very open to low-tech solutions and DIY sort of things, which I really like. Or you can go the proper route and you buy the proper aluminium extrusions and mount it in a roadie, like a road case, as you would use on a tour or something, and make it really really strong. So I'm not sure which picture this was in relation to, but Peter Kirkhoff said, well, sometimes I think I've spent too much for my hobby, considering that I don't manufacture anything. Then I see photos like this and realize I need to relax. Yeah. Oh, well. Yeah. I love workbenches. What have we got? Oh, Mike Corsa said carpet on the floor though, and Johnny Bergdahl replied and said it's ESD carpet. That's an interesting point. So ESD, let's not chase that squirrel right now. But yeah, so in my floor, mine's wood. This whole area that I'm in right now is an extension. I'm on a concrete slab, and then there's like a waterproof membrane on the concrete slab, and then I've got wood glued down to the slab. And so I don't have carpet through this area, but I also don't have a proper ESD safe area. To do it properly, what you do is get an ESD epoxy, and that goes across the whole floor, and it's like a static dissipative surface like on a workbench, but it's for your floor, and it's hard, very hard wearing. Oh yeah, Ingmar said, Johnny Bergdahl, don't get me started on ESD. Yeah. Okay. So, earlier I showed a I can't remember whose it was, someone's workspace where they had 4 3D printers, and one of them looked like a Prusa, but with an alternate frame. And Alexander just said it's a Prusa Bear Mod 2040 Rails. Yeah, so I've heard of that mod before. And from what I understand, the idea is that you take an existing Prusa printer and you replace the chassis parts with 2040 extrusions and brackets and things. And the idea is that it makes it really rigid, I think. So, yeah, that'll be what that was. Pancake Legend said, "Morning, I'm late to the party." Good morning, Andrew. So, I wish I'd seen some of these comments earlier while I was looking at the right pictures, because Mr. DIY said, "What's that at the foot of the desk?" But I don't know which desk that was referring to. Austin's Creation said, so this is going back to the picture of Tridge's bench, and where are we? I'll find it. Was it in Twitter? No, it was in Facebook. It was in Facebook. It was this. Yeah, so this is something that I've actually spoken about before, and something that Tridge is involved in is I can't remember the proper name for it, but it's there's a UAV challenge, and I think it's had different titles over the years, like Saving Joe and that sort of thing. And you can see that there is a big red, it's like a medical symbol on this, and the challenge for at least some of the years has been related to medical services in remote areas. So using drones to deliver medicine or to take a sample and then return the sample, and all sorts of complicated things. And the reason I've just brought that up is the comment. So Austin's Creation said, "My guess with the markings is that it's likely going a decent distance to deliver medical supplies. Then it can use the drone motors to hover or land to prevent cargo damage." Yeah, that's exactly the sort of thing that Tridge is involved in. And the Canberra UAV team have been very successful in that challenge over the years. So yeah, what this sort of craft would be used for is maybe take off from a runway and then fly as a fixed wing aircraft, which is very efficient. Drones aren't very efficient because they're using all the power of the motors to keep themselves up in the air. Gliders can stay in the air with no motors by just rising on thermals and using the lift of the wings in order to keep themselves in the air. So gliders are very efficient. Apart from the power that you need for the control surfaces, they require zero energy input. They can stay up indefinitely. Drones are the exact opposite. They're using energy like crazy in order to generate the lift to stay in the air. But drones give you control, like you can land vertically and go wherever you want to go. So the idea with this hybrid sort of aircraft is you get the benefit of both. What you can do is fly very long distances as in fixed wing mode, so it's using the lift of the wings and it's using the propeller for forward motion, and you can get many kilometers of range out of that. And then when you arrive at your destination, it might be an area that doesn't have an open area that you can land on. You might be arriving at a scene of an emergency, like someone is injured out in the middle of nowhere and you have got to get supplies to them somehow. It could be medical supplies, or it could just be water or whatever. What you can do is fly efficiently the long distance, and then you switch to hover mode, and it uses the vertical propellers to just land vertically, and then you can take off vertically and then fly efficiently. So you get the best of both. All right. Aaron said, "Wonder what Waz's home workshop looks like these days." Yeah, I wonder. Peter Lawler said, "Tridge is a monster." Yeah, but in the best possible way. All right, so Oh, Aaron said, we call those cabin beds in the UK. So this is going back to Austin's render of the idea of having the elevated bed and all of those sorts of things. So cabin beds, yeah. All right, Austin's creations, 8 feet. Yeah, it wasn't 88 feet tall. There is a keyboard drawer, 2040. Sorry, I'm just scanning down through comments here, trying to catch up. Okay, so Ingmar, referring to one of the previous images, would I find it again if I looked back through here? I'm not sure. Where is it here? I'm not sure where Ingmar's picture was, which thread or whatever. So those things have 9 drawers and are from IKEA. I added wheels. This room is a small bedroom size, totally rebuilt with caboodle kitchen cabinets. Yeah, kitchen cabinets are a great idea for workshops. That was actually what I intended to do when we built this area. So what happened was that we did the renovations and built this workshop area. Renovations ran over budget, of course, because that's the law. They have to. And in fact, if I'll bring up this picture to help explain. So I ended up with an empty workspace, and what I had intended to do was, as part of the process, have workbenches fitted through here by a kitchen company. And so companies that build kitchens are obviously good at building benches. They can make, they can have them go around corners and you get really nice edges on them, good finish. They make everything fit beautifully. So my idea had been go to a kitchen contractor and have them build my workbenches for my lab. So it would wrap around the room and it would all be really nice. And I just had no money left. So, so my solution to that was to go and buy some chipboard and just make my own workbenches as a kind of semi-temporary thing, so that when I did have money eventually, I could put proper benches in. And the usual story, you build a prototype, the prototype goes to production, and then it stays there for decades. So this photo, even though this photo is probably a year or two old, a year or so old, it still kind of looks like this. You can see the curved bench here in the corner. So this is where I'm sitting right now, is in this position, and it's got this this workbench surface, which is not as solid as I would like. I had to reinforce through the middle. If you look down towards the right here, you can see the clamp on the front of the bench, which is holding up the microscope on this boom arm. I had to put a piece of steel, in fact 2 pieces of steel, that go under the bench from approximately here, and it goes all the way along to the next leg. So you can see there's a leg supporting the bench there, just near my right leg where I'm sitting now. And then there is another similar leg down just slightly off camera view here. So what I did was put 2 big pieces of steel section running between those 2 legs, and I screwed through the steel section into the bottom of the bench. So this whole front edge of the bench here is braced with a steel frame, and it's very rigid. I could stand on this part of the bench here and it wouldn't move, even though it's a 2-meter span or something. So the mount here for the microscope goes onto that steel frame, and it's very solid. Because the microscope is mounted on the end of the cantilever arm and it swings around, and if there was vibration and things through the bench and it made the microscope move, that would be really bad. So I had made that part as braced as I possibly could. So what was I talking about? That's right, kitchen. So the reason that I brought up kitchen stuff was the comment. Sorry, who was it? Someone was just saying, Ingmar, there it is. So Ingmar was talking about using caboodle kitchen cabinets. Yeah, so kitchen cabinets, really cool idea. And if you look at the picture I've got on screen here, the original idea was not just to put kitchen bench in there. I was wanting to put overhead kitchen cabinets in as well. So all this area here where you can see the shelves with the plastic tubs, everything above the workbench was meant to be kitchen cabinets with doors on it, so that the entire workspace could be really clean and neat. And ideally what I wanted was the doors that sort of cantilever up, so that I could have the doors open and up, and then I'd be able to have access easily, because I don't want doors that swing out and they get in your way and you bash your head on them. They're just annoying. I wanted doors to cantilever up so that I have access to everything that's on the, like all of the containers and things that are in the overhead cupboards, and then I could just pull them down and close it and everything stays dust free. But that's a big budget thing. If you think about how much it costs to fit out a kitchen, this is like a kitchen times 3 or 4 in terms of its bench space and storage requirements and things. It would cost a lot. Aha, James said, post your workbenches here. Yes, thank you, James, for putting that that link back in. Now, yes. You'll have to refresh. Okay, so there might be some more things that I will get to if I refresh these threads. I'll do that in just a moment, but first I'm going to see if I can catch up on these comments. So Peter said, this is after my comment about DHL notification. I'm looking at my CCTV thing at the moment. No, it's not on the front bench yet. And the package that's arriving today is not something I can really share with you. I can tell you what it is, but it's not an open source project. It's a commercial project. It's actually part of the water cannon project. You can kind of see behind me there's another water cannon there. It's a different one to what I've got. 4 water cannons here at the moment. So that one is different to the one that you would have seen previously. If I move over there, that one's grey. It's a bit harder to see. The other one was yellow. And what am I talking about? I don't know. I'm in this usual rambling sort of state. So the PCBs that are arriving today are for a CAN bus based control system that goes with the water cannon, but it's for the joystick. So joystick goes in the cab, and the operator can control the thing remotely, and it uses CAN bus to communicate to the control. The actual motor controller is on the water cannon, so all the joystick does is send commands to it. And so the PCBs that are arriving any minute now are for it's for a new version of the joystick. And yeah, so it's exciting to me, but it's a commercial project. I can show you, my client is really happy for me to show you the result, like of how the thing works, but of course I'm doing the work for him and it's not open source, so I can't show you the design as such, only the result. That was an interesting question. So Austin asked, have you looked at the LED sign in the last 2 weeks? Not in the last 2 weeks, no. The sign is just down here. It's just, you can see it right there. It's resting vertically against the end of that case, and I do want to get back to it. That was actually one of the things I was thinking of doing today, but then I remembered that I hadn't gone through Arturo's thread of awesomeness, and I decided that we would do this instead. But I do want to get back to that. So Peter said, there's no way I'm posting my workshop. I inherited my father's 50-year-old man cave. Some Aussies may remember him as a major contributor to Electronics Australia and Silicon Chip from the 80s and 90s. Really? I didn't know that, Peter. That's interesting. So let's see. If I remember Lawler. Okay, Lawler, Silicon Chip. Let's see. Jim Lawler. Was it Jim Lawler? That name does sound familiar. Where is Jim Lawler? I wonder if I've built any Jim Lawler projects. Static. How to connect two TVs to one VCR. Jim Lawler, November 1990. Oh, interesting. Peter, I did not know that your dad was one of the Silicon Chip and Electronics Australia writers. That is really cool. Yeah, okay. Oh, sorry, I saw something else. I will get to it. So Johnny posted Stephen's channel, so Stephen the Robot, the one of the pictures I just showed you a little while ago. Now let's get out of that. And I'm almost caught up with comments, I think. So Austin said, he's currently on Twitch working on conveyor belt development. Cool, so Stephen is not here on this live stream because he is streaming on Twitch himself on conveyor belt. So conveyor belt for his pick and place machine, perhaps. That would be very cool. And Sion, Unexpected Maker, pointed out that Liz just made a custom rack. Very cool. So this is referring to the Euro rack stuff. Yes, I saw this. She's made a Euro rack frame that looks amazing. It's a work of art. And Sion has included a link to a video about it in the chat. So make sure you check that out. If you're interested in Euro rack, this is one of the interesting things about Euro rack is that it's one of those... modular synthesizers are one of those subjects that it's very much on the confluence of art and science, because there is the technical aspect of it, of how do we make the circuits that do the particular things, and how do I get the effects that I want when I build a synthesizer. But of course, this is in the area of music, which is also artistic. And so what you see is a lot of artistic expression coming into synthesizers as well. So modular synthesizers are often like a crazy work of art in themselves. And Liz's build of her synthesizer frame is definitely a work of art. It looks fantastic. So some synthesizers are totally functional. They are a box, and it's just like a ruggedized box that's been thrown around in the back of a tour van for years, and it's got the corner bashed in, and it doesn't look particularly nice, but it's strong and functional. And then you get people who build modular synthesizers that are just like a thing of beauty, and they have like open frames and beautiful paint jobs on them, and they look fantastic. So Liz's synth project, or her synth frame project, sort of falls into that second category. I wonder if I can... I was just thinking of bringing it up, but I won't right now. So there's a link in there anyway to it, which Unexpected Maker has posted. Yeah. James said, a guy I used to work with used to say there is nothing more permanent than a temporary solution. Yes, he was right. Yeah. Alright. Cool. So Ingmar said, just chucked the top caboodle cupboard pics onto Twitter. And the serviceman. Right, so Peter Lawler said Dad was the serviceman and semi-assistant editor. Yes, I used to read the Serviceman series. That was in the back of the magazine, and it was like a regular column. So obviously Peter knows this. I'm saying this for people that aren't that familiar with it. So Electronics Australia, it was a legendary electronics magazine in Australia, obviously, for a very, very long time. And Silicon Chip is now like the electronics hobbyist magazine, hobbyist sort of / professional electronics magazine in Australia, and there is a lot of crossover between the two. So I won't go into all the details of it, but Electronics Australia is defunct, and Silicon Chip has many of the same people contributing to it and involved in it. And so in the back of the magazine was a regular column called The Serviceman, and it often had guest contributions as well. Like people would write in with their stories about crazy faults, and it was largely about fault finding. So things like servicing a TV and how it was tracked down. But it was written in a humorous way, often involving customers with crazy ideas and previously bodged attempts at repairs. Like just a customer would come in with a TV and say, "Oh, it's not working," and you'd pull the back off it and discover that they'd been in with a pair of pliers trying to fix it themselves, and it totally destroyed it. Those sorts of weird things that you come across. So anyway, the Serviceman column was that sort of thing, and so I always used to read the Serviceman column. But Peter, I had no idea that the Serviceman was your father. So that is really cool. Peter said, yeah, he's far more about repairing than creating. Yep, that sounds right. Yes. And Peter said, you probably did projects he and I edited. I sort of kind of learned how to edit by teaching him how to word processor. I remember when his newsletters were on a Gestetner hand crank in the 70s. Yeah, the Gestetner or Gestetner? I can't remember. But yeah, one of those like mimeograph machines where you put an original down and you turn the crank and it turns out copies of things. Yes. Dave Jones said, I used to love the cartoons associated with the Serviceman. Yeah. Interesting. So on the subject of, we're going to get back, Ingmar, we'll get back to those pictures in just a second, and this is kind of the segue into it. So Pancake Legend said, my dad converted his second kitchen into an electronics workshop with minimal change. Great if you have a spare kitchen. Yeah, so if you've got a spare kitchen in your house, I usually keep a spare kitchen. Redundancy of kitchens. Build a cluster, then you got extra capacity if you need it. So if you've got a spare kitchen in your house, maybe in your house you have a second area like a granny flat or something that's got its own kitchen in it, and you end up taking it over and using if you convert a granny flat into a workshop, then you might be lucky and score a kitchen, which is cool. Now Ingmar was talking about adding some pictures to this thread. Let's do a reload and see what we can find. See if there are new things in here. Ooh, James posted some pictures as well. And let's have a look at these while we're in this area. That was taken with a rather wide angle lens. Unless your wall and bench are very curved. Oh, and you got a special curved laptop, I see as well. Yeah, if you've got a bench that curves away from you, you need to also make sure that you get a curved laptop so that it fits on the bench. That looks like a DigiKey PCB ruler over there. Yeah, so we've got the 3D printer on the right, electronic stuff on the left, and a monitor wall in the middle. Something I'm very familiar with. So that looks like a good solid bench. Look at the frame on this. It's is it like 2x4s? Like, what is that? 45 by 90 frame built down to the floor. Good solid bench on it. A good solid top on it. Looks like it's maybe pine boards, like floorboards. So that would be a nice surface to work on. Very cool. Building progress. Now what's this other one? This is what it looks like during work from home. Yes. So when it's taken over by the kids and the cat. Oh, and you can see the screen has been blanked out. But yeah, that looks like a good workspace. And the cat is getting into it. I hope that soldering iron is turned off. Yes. Work from home has been an interesting experience for many people. Okay, so what I was looking for was Ingmar said he posted some more things. Was it in the Facebook thread perhaps? Let's come back to Facebook and do a refresh. Where were we looking at Ingmar's pictures? I have lost it. Let me see. What have we got? I've kind of lost track of what I was doing. Alright, so just going back. So just chuck the top caboodle pics onto Twitter. Ingmar. So where was I looking? Ah, Old Hack, yeah. So Ingmar is Old Hack. Now where was I looking at that? On Twitter, Old Hack. You it's in the. I need to spin down the show replies thing. Ah, yes. It was hiding right there in plain sight. Oh, that is nice. Yeah, that's really nice storage. And see these ones up on the right here. Ingmar, I assume that these are the type of door that opens up. So hinged from the top, and you lift it up to get access to the inside. That is exactly the sort of thing that I was wanting to do over my workbench. It means that when it's all closed up like this, it looks really neat, very nice. And there's a little wire spool holder hanging underneath that upper workbench. My guess is that these cupboards are like the traditional side hinge style. And they probably open sideways is my guess. And there's a corner cupboard there. Corners are a pain. What to do with corners is always difficult. Oh no! I thought it was a delivery at the front door. It wasn't. I was getting excited. If I suddenly end the live stream and run out of the room, it's because DHL has arrived. Yeah, this is a really good example of what I was talking about. I like this. Nice working, Ma. So this is the caboodle kitchen units, just screwed into the wall, I assume. And it gives it's a lot better than my dodgy looking thing. So compare the niceness of that to this. And what I would like up here, where I've got these open shelves with all these boxes, I would like more of an enclosed sort of cupboard arrangement. Of course, that would mean that my box tracking system would have trouble because it couldn't, unless it was open at the time, it couldn't track the location of all of these markers and figure out where all of my containers are. Right? It still looks much nicer. Like you look at how messy this looks visually. It just looks complicated. Like there's stuff hanging down everywhere. Compare it to Ingmar's thing here. Ah, that's relaxing. You look at that and think, that looks nice. It's all hidden away. Yeah. So, James said 1 inch by 12 inch benchtop boards. Yes. So, ASD cat. Yes. So that is referring to. No, I've lost that one now. So James, yeah, this one. So James's picture here. I was just commenting on this one, saying it looks like floorboards. Yeah. So 1 inch by 12 inch boards. That is 1 inch thick. That's really solid. So 25mm thick bench top. This is the sort of thing that you could sit be big heavy things on, it's going to be solid. It's not going to deform, which is nice. That's the thing that my current workbench is not so great at. It's just, it's basically chipboard. And even though it's on a kind of frame, on the areas where I don't have that reinforcing, it sort of moves a little bit. It's not so great. Oh, John. James said your box tracking system would remember the last known location and still point to it. Yeah, that's right. So it could. Oh, Ingmar said, "Fun stream. Cheers. Got to run." Ingmar, thanks for coming along and sharing your workbench. That's really cool. And yeah, and Pancake said box tracking system can remember where it was last seen. Yeah, that's right. So at the moment, what happens is that it updates. The way the box tracking system works is it takes a photo, it finds all of the markers, extracts the X and Y coordinates of the markers, and then updates it into a MySQL, well, actually a MariaDB database. And and each time it does an update, it updates a timestamp of the last time seen. And the reason for that is that if I take a box away and it's somewhere else away out of camera view, I want that to expire so that the system no longer, if the system hasn't seen a tag within a certain period of time, it can then say, I don't know where that box is. It won't mistakenly think that it is still on the shelf where it was last seen. So I would just need to take that into account. But what I could do is either in software, if it doesn't see any tags within a certain zone, it assumes the cupboard is closed and then just not do any, not expire any of the boxes that are in that area. Or I could have sensors on the doors, all sorts of things. So yeah, that I could work around that problem. That's not a real problem. It's just something. And John Spencer said, I posted my dumpster fire of a workshop on the original thread. On the original thread. Okay, so I've got to go back to Arturo's thread. Where is... I've got to find John's... I wonder if I can do a search in here. So, John, is your Twitter handle Major or is it John? Let's do M-A-G-E... no, John... I'll do a search for Spencer. No, John... no, we're finding... John, yeah, when I do a search for that, I'm finding John Thurman's stuff. Anyway, I could just do a scroll down here and see if I can find John Spencer's. I can't remember what your Twitter username is, John. I think it's Major. I will find it. Twitter... Sorry, this is not exactly riveting live streaming. There we go. It's Major. So if I do a search in this thread for, when you say the original thread, no, it's not showing up. Do you mean my thread or Arturo's thread? Let's just... I'm going to some trouble to find this because I want to see John's workspace. I don't see it there. Anyway. So I need to have John and Sarah, or John or Sarah, on the live stream sometime. Either or both of them would be very interesting guests to have. The zero is a zero, not an O. Yep. Okay. Anyway, I couldn't find it. I'm sorry. So, yeah, interesting comment here. Aha Reap System said, jealous of you guys having flat walls. My home office is a loft conversion, so sloppy walls. Sloppy walls, sloping walls? Do you mean like a ceiling that comes in? Yeah, that weird spaces can be difficult to work around sometimes. Oh, very clever. Jeff Miller said, so this is talking about the package tracking system. Jeff Miller said, how about a fiducial marker on the door itself to determine if it's closed? Or would that detract from the clean look of the doors? Yeah, now that is a very clever solution. Put a marker on the outside of the door, so when you close it, if you see that marker, you know that the door is closed. Sloping, yeah, that's a clever solution. So Austin said, so if you're following Stephen Hoare's Index PNP project, does that mean that you're considering upgrading or changing your current PNP? Well, I would like to replace my current PNP with a proper commercial system. Something, like what I dream of a setup like Unexpected Maker has in his place, but I don't have either the space or the money to do that sort of thing. And my pick and place doesn't make me money, so I can't really justify it, because my manufacturing, other than specialized stuff, short runs and things, I do my manufacturing at factories in usually just outside or in Beijing. So I'm not running through thousands and thousands of boards on my pick and place machine. I will do, I might do 10 sometimes, or if I'm doing something like, I don't know, a short run where I want 100 of a board, I might do that on my pick and place machine, but that's unusual. Most of the time I'm making, a couple of something. So no, it's just because Stephen is cool and he's and he's clever in terms of the way he's solving problems as well. So I'm checking out his index pick and place machine to see how he has solved problems. Okay. Oh, this looks. Oh, is that the? We looked at this one earlier, didn't we? This is Luke Gorry's setup. This is a nice looking setup. So I'm gonna finish up this live stream soon, but let's finish by, well, first I'm going to check these threads. Have there been any more things posted on here? Doesn't look like it. I'll do a refresh on this one, and then I'll finish with looking at a few more pictures on Arturo's original thread. Do we have any more comments or replies on here? There's Ingmar's shelves. Oh, cool. Chris Daly has posted. So, just scroll down, see if there are any more down there. No. Okay, so, Chris, let's have a look at Chris's bench. Oh, excuse me. Oh, there's a little bar fridge underneath. Handy. I have a bar fridge through that door, and I use that for keeping drinks and solder paste. Basically the only two things that are in it. So having a little fridge in your workshop can be a useful thing. So where is that? What's going on with the light here? I'm just trying to find where that light is coming from. There is some illumination happening. Where is the illumination? Maybe my brain is just misfiring. I don't understand what's going on here. So there is some illumination coming from somewhere, and I can't see the source of it. Alright, so and Chris has, ooh, this is actually interesting. This is cool. There is an Acer, what is it, just a tablet, or is it like a convertible laptop sort of thing, on the side with a keyboard so that it takes up minimal space. That's cool. That's a rather than having a full computer taking up a big chunk of desk, having access to information at your workspace is really useful. Often when, like, data sheets or looking up, what I find I need to do all the time is I often have Eagle open. This is something where my current setup is not quite optimal. If I'm working on a board on my workbench, what I usually do is have the CAD files for that project open on my computer and usually zoomed in massively. So I'll have like the PCB view on, or maybe the schematic view sometimes, on a monitor on the side, so that as I'm working on the PCB, I can be looking at the PCB view in CAD and see where everything is, see where signals go and that sort of thing, see where tracks are connected. So having some kind of a display right at your electronics bench for doing that sort of thing is super useful. So yeah, that's good. And oh, look at this lighting, that's cool. I can't remember what these are called. The little lights that attach to each other. There are a couple of different versions of those now. I think LifeX might have made some, and there are some others you can get. So they're hexagon, so you can attach them together. But look at this little computer area. This is cool. So this is just to the left of the electronics bench. So you can see down in the bottom right corner, that's the edge of the tablet we were looking at a moment ago. So now we're looking along the electronics bench. And you can see some storage drawers in a mobile cabinet, which is handy. And a very funky looking computer down here. And that's cool. It's a very big computer. It's almost like the size of a mini 19-inch rack. And that's off to the side of the bench. And it looks like is that an adjustable bench? Like a sit-stand bench? There's a little control panel here. And I can't tell if that is... It looks like a control panel for the bench to adjust it. Or it might be like a USB hub or something. There's a stream deck in here. Nice little computer setup. Dual monitors on arms with the camera peeking up over the top. That's a good arrangement. The way this is set up, that camera would have a view of the electronics bench and you could stream from there while you're sitting at it. And so that is turning around the other way, I think. And the panorama view. Yes, so you can see there how it all fits together. Oh, look at the cushion. That cushion, I don't know if that was in the other picture. It's like it's an IC, it's a CPU. So computer area there, corner of the room, electronics bench there, storage in the cupboard, and looking around. That's a very clean looking workspace. Nice work on putting that together, Chris. Yeah. So, alright. I'm going to finish off. Oh, Peter Lawler said lunchtime. Yes, it is lunchtime. I'm going to stop in just a moment. But James asked a question which was, any dream upgrades to your office? And the answer is yes. Thinking about it. Alright, the major issue I have, for a while I used to think I need a bigger workshop, or I need a bigger lab, because I don't have enough room for everything in here. But then I realized that what I don't really want is a bigger room for the room that I'm in right now. It's pretty much the perfect size. Like, I'm a few steps away from you can see the storage on the wall there. There is enough room for a trestle table in the middle, which can have things on it that I'm working on. Everything is reasonably close. But what I really need is a second space adjacent to this one, or really two extra spaces, for two reasons. What I need is more of a mechanical room. At the moment I've got a little CNC machine and I've got a laser cutter and a few other things that are in this room that ideally should be in a separate room. What I need is an adjacent workshop which is more of a mechanical workshop with a big solid bench where I can do hammering and cutting of stuff and make a mess and then vacuum it up. But I don't do things like sawing aluminium in this room, because I'd just end up with aluminium filings everywhere. I want somewhere that I can do that sort of thing that is in a separate physical space to keep it all enclosed. and running the CNC machine in here generates a mess, which is not good. So what I really want to do is have, well, at the moment what I do is I use the back of the garage. In fact, I use the whole garage is full of stuff. We don't have any cars in the garage. It's all just full of stuff. So what I want is an area for that sort of mechanical workshop and for secondary storage. So you've seen the, I've just been showing you pictures of the shelves, they're all plastic tubs. These plastic tubs are the ones that I need immediate access to. But I have a garage full of racks with more of those tubs. And what I really need is more of that second level storage. It's the sort of things where I might go 6 months without needing that particular thing, or 12 months or whatever, but I need to get it sometimes. And it's not a problem if I've got to stand up and walk some distance to get it. Like if I have to walk out into a storage, like a mini warehouse sort of thing, go to the right place and grab the thing I need, and then bring it back in here. If it's not the sort of thing that I'm using every day, then that doesn't matter. The idea is to have, imagine it being like a dartboard. You've got the bullseye, and then you've got concentric rings that go out. The most important stuff has to be in arm's reach, right where you're working. And the slightly less important stuff has to be within stand up, take a few steps, and then you can get to it. And that's basically the room. Like the room is the secondary ring of importance. But then there is the bigger ring, which is things that I don't need regularly, but I need to be able to get up and walk and get it. And that can be outside of the room. It could be in another storage area. So in terms of changes to my existing workshop, I think probably the biggest improvement I could have, and at the moment I've got too much that is jammed in here because there isn't anywhere else it can go. If there was a secondary storage area that I could offload things to, I would take a fair bit of the stuff that is stored in here. Like you see on these shelves, for example, there are white cardboard boxes and they're all labeled and they've got stuff in them. Many of those boxes could go out into a secondary storage area and clear up some space here. So I could optimize my immediate workspace much better if there was somewhere secondary that I could move things to. James, thank you for that contribution. I really appreciate it. That's very generous. So James said, Austin's Creations, you're right, Superhouse TV needs to upgrade his computer. I do, but right now is not the time. I'm waiting for to see what Apple does next. Are they going to bring out an M1X or an M2 or something? The next couple of months is going to be extremely interesting in computer land in terms of upgrade options and things. Right now, though, it's not the time for an upgrade. I'm holding on to see what magic they bring. The M1X, yeah. Hopefully there will be an upgraded Mac Mini or iMac with something like the M1X in the next few months. And if there is, I think that'll be the time to jump. Yeah, they sound I've been watching the leaks and I've been hoping that half the leaks are correct. If they are, then I'll be very happy and I'll do an upgrade at some point. Yeah, okay, so I think I'm going to sign off today. Thank you for coming along and looking at other people's workbenches with me. So, yeah, I will be back next week. I've got ideas for things that I want to do on live streams, and I do want to get back to that sign. I will do it. For now, I'm just going to go and bail, and I'm going to go and sit cross-legged on my front door step and wait for the DHL guy to arrive. So I hope you have a fantastic Sunday afternoon, or for those of you who started this live stream at midnight Saturday, go to bed. And I'll see you all really soon. Now, how do I end this thing? Where is the off button? Down there. Okay. Thanks. Thanks for coming. Bye.